Okay, thank you everybody and welcome to a public meeting which is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. This is the Cabinet of Broadland District Council and our meeting on 5th of September 2023, and I am the Chair, the Leader of the Council. I think we've done introductions before, but I hope everybody's happy. We'll just move on. Is that all right? Jolly good. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Chairman, we have apologies from Councillor Booth.
Councillor Booth, thank you very much. And also I've just realised I've missed out declarations of interest. Could we have anybody have any declarations of interest? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the item else
Ward member for car park, thank you very much. Okay, so if we move on then, if I could ask you to have a look at the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 18th of July, and we'll just check those for accuracy and any matters arising. Yes, Councillor Roper.
Happy to read about accuracy. Just on minutes. Thank you. Happy to agree with them for accuracy. Just on minute 24, I gave an update that there would be progress very soon on the telephony contract award. I can confirm that that award was made the following day after the Cabinet meeting.
Thank you very much. That's good news. Does anybody else have any other mentions for matters arising from the last minutes? And nobody has any problems with accuracy? Can I ask somebody to propose that we accept those minutes then? Thank you, Councillor Roper, seconded by Councillor Beadle. And all happy with that? Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, so if we move on then, could I ask if there is any public speaking?
There's no public speaking.
Could I then ask for the Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, if you'd like to put forward any feedback that you have from the meeting last week, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. The meeting last week, I'll just start by saying I thought it was an excellent meeting because there was a good degree of scrutiny, some really good questioning, and I thought that all members present actually learned quite a lot from the meeting. I made a point of actually thanking members of the opposition afterwards, who I thought handled themselves in a really constructive way to getting to the nitty-gritty of that. So I want to say that yet again. Thank them. There's two of them here tonight. The first 2 points, the risk management policy, went through without a single speaker. So it was obviously clear and obvious. We almost got the council registered provider status through with only one question being asked, and it was just for clarification, and they were fully supported. The other matters, the local authority housing fund purchase of properties was supported by all bar two members, but I think the actual points that they raised were pertinent in that the one was very concerned about the possibility of the value of properties falling, because we know that the market is rather fluctuating at the moment. I think the point was answered well by Rodney pointing out that we've got 40% of the money being paid, so it'd have to be a significant drop. I fully understood his reasons for that and his reasons why he felt justified in not supporting that. There was also a slight alteration, I believe, on that point in the order in which the proposal was to be put. Yeah, so absolutely, but I was trying not to. Just saying it was with regard to the overall point that there was just a change. Okay, I'm happy to come back to that later on. There's further points, but can I just make one point that was made right from the beginning of the meeting? And I know this is something which concerns you also, because I spoke to you a week last Friday about it, about the lateness of the minutes coming forward, so that there wasn't enough time that the Vice Chairman felt that he wanted to make the point, and I support him in his concerns, that there wasn't enough time really to for all members on a bank holiday weekend to fully scrutinise the matters in hand. So if there is when this matter gets reviewed about the committees and about the way things are going to be run in the council, if a way could be found to allow a little bit more time between the publication of the future minutes so that members of the scrutiny committee really can get their teeth into that, I think that would be useful.
Thank you. Yes, I know. I take that point. There's one aspect of that I would like to clarify is that the element relating to the local authority housing fund is a very it's on a very tight deadline. There's a lot of work had to go into that, so I completely accept that it's not appropriate, and we would expect those papers to come out sooner. But on this occasion, there were good reasons for that, and I would hope that we don't get to that point again. But the officers worked incredibly hard to get the detail they did into it for the time scale that was allowed. And one of the things we are looking about is maybe how we arrange the timetable of meetings to allow enough space between those things. So I take that point, and I have to say, I will be honest here, I have complained about it myself in the past while I was on overview and scrutiny, because it has happened on occasion before. So I know exactly what you feel like, and definitely, we will endeavour to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So I hope that's acceptable to everybody. But I would like to thank the officers for the hard work they put in to get them to the point where they did in time for the meeting, which was really very helpful.
No, all other matters will cover under the, once we can go into a little bit more detail. I'll just make the point saying that although I'm a member of sort of the ruling group, I do feel that as chairman of overview and scrutiny, I have to make that point on behalf of opposition members strongly, because it's like my committee, so they're members of my committee, and I feel like I should make that point.
Representations from non-cabinet members. Do we have anybody? Yes, Councillor Emerson.
Yeah, obviously with these reports, I know they're all below the line and everything like that, so I'll just keep it very general to say that I think in the past and moving forward for Broadland, it's very important that every single project that we look at does have a sound financial business case. And I just, obviously we are talking about some of them being that the need was to get them in quickly, but we've always prided ourselves at Broadland on the sound financial business cases that lead our projects, because it's not our money, it is the taxpayers' money, and I feel that we do need to make sure that we observe that. And I just want to sort of make that clear that, we looked at these projects with a business case scenario, looking at them to make sure they were all correct and everything like that. And I think it is important that everything that we do at Broadland is still held like that.
Thank you, Councillor Emsell. Perhaps I could just make it quite clear that nothing will come forward to us without a sound business case. And as I'm sure you're aware, the One team put a lot of effort in to make sure those business cases are properly worked through. And we are certainly fully supportive of that. So please take that on board, that we are very happy to be sure that business cases are really important. Nobody's going to do anything by just rushing off and spending all the money. So I hope you will take our assurance that the One team are fully behind you on that. Okay, then in that case, can I move us on to item 7, which is the risk management policy, and I think that's Sinead is going to tell us all about that. So, would you like to come forward? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the report you have in front of you today is an overview of the refreshed risk management policy, and this is following a scheduled review of the policy. And as mentioned, it has been to Audit Committee and Scrutiny over the last few weeks and has been endorsed by both of those committees. So just by way of background, the policy, which is set out in Appendix 1, was originally set back in 2020 following a risk maturity assessment that we conducted. Section 2.2 of the report provides an overview of the key features of that policy, which includes the framework for delivery of risk management, our risk appetite, roles and responsibilities, and how we utilise the risk scoring guidance. Since that policy has come into place, a lot of work has taken place really to embed best practice ways of working with risk management, and has led us to establish a range of initiatives over the last few years, such as our strategic risk register, which comes to both Cabinet and Audit on a quarterly basis, and also work has been done to integrate risk into our performance approach as well. We have also rolled out risk identification and management guidance to all staff and have begun a programme of training, particularly for new staff coming into the organisation so they can understand our risk management processes. Earlier this year, we asked internal audit to do a position statement for us, really to understand how far we have come since we originally set that risk policy. And that resulted in a number of quite small amendments and additions to our current policy, which I've set out in sections 4.1 in the report. And the amendments are really focused around embedding better working practices with CLT when engaging with portfolio holders and members on risk. So in terms of the recommendation, we are seeking for Cabinet to recommend the proposed refreshed risk policy to Council. And I'll pause there if there's any questions.
Lovely, thank you. I think I've got something to raise, but I will go around the room first. We've had a discussion about this, haven't we, Sinead? Yes, Jan, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just an observation that this is a Broadland District Council risk management policy, and so I'm not sure why we've got South Norfolk in the footer, because it could be confusing. It is specific to Broadland District Council, so I'd like to recommend that we take out, well, you could take out the footer because and have a heading Broadland District Council, or include Broadland District Council in the footer, but it's not South Norfolk's.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else got any comments on that?
Chairman, I'd just like to check with the officers, this is a joint policy, isn't it? Or is it separate?
The policy is the same across both councils, yes. So, but we have tailored it, so it is a Broadland policy.
If I can come back on that then, I can't see how we can have a joint policy. I mean, if we have an initiative, for example, Broadland District Council initiative, which has certain risks attached to it, which has nothing to do with South Norfolk, then clearly we've got to have a separate risk management sort of approach, policy.
So the councils do have separate risk registers, so the way in which the Cabinet may wish to score certain risks can be different, but the process in which to get to that point is the same, because we have the same one team managing, identifying those risks, but obviously the appetite across the two councils can be different, and it's different.
In which case, I think that just reinforces what I'm saying, that you know, if our risk appetites are different, and even if they're not now, they could be in the future, then I think we ought to have a separate, at least headed risk management policy.
Okay, well, I think, to be honest, I can see what we're all saying, and I don't think it's necessary to have it in the footer anyway. It is Broadland's risk management policy as much as anything, and I think it does refer to the council, so if it's just a question of, you know, I don't see that the footer is actually particularly essential anyway, really, if that's the case. So if everybody's happy to do that, I mean, that's just taking the footer out, basically, isn't it? Does anybody have anything else to add to that? No. I do have a couple of little minor things which I think I did flag up to you, didn't I? About I think item 4.2. Sinead and I had a discussion about this. It actually talks about risks that could impact the work of, and it used to say the council, and it's been changed to the one team. Now, while I understand what the point of this was, to try to split out strategic risk from operational risk. So I see what we're saying there, but I would still argue, and I think it's a bit ambiguous, but what I would still argue, the work of the one team is the work of the council. So for me, I think it should, I wouldn't have any problem if it says the councils and the one, you know, council's one team or whatever, but I think it should say the council, because without the council, the work doesn't exist anyway, if you see what I mean. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
I think it's maybe semantics, but it seems quite important to me. So I think I would recommend that we made that change if possible.
Happy to make that change in terms of the wording. I think we were just trying to reflect the operations of the officers in terms of the way in which they manage and monitor that risk, but more than happy to make that amendment to that part of the report.
I'm doing it again, but I've come to 11.4, which is a similar thing really, because it talks about the one team, and I absolutely agree the fact that, you know, the staff are empowered to make well-rounded decisions. That's really important. But the original wording was council. We're a council that empowers its staff to make those well-rounded decisions and so on. And I kind of feel that that's the same principle, that the one team is doing the work of the council, not necessarily the members, but I understand again, I get that there's strategic risk and there's operational risk. I just feel the council itself needs to be reflected in there, if possible.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to agree with you. I think in terms of, you know, we're the political leadership of the council, and for us to be removing references essentially to ourselves, the council, from this type of document and just leaving references to the staff, as in the one team, it looks like we're stepping back, and I think that gives the wrong sort of message. And if anything were to go wrong, I don't think the people outside, the residents, will be, oh, well, that was the staff. No, they'd be saying that was the council, and that would be falling on people like me and people like Councillor Davis and people like yourself, Leader. So I think it's absolutely right that those references to council stay in there alongside those of the one team.
Yeah, yes, Steve.
Yeah, it's a similar point. I totally understand, you know, the point about, you know, we've got risk, and then you've got also officers that have to carry some risk themselves in terms of operational matters. But I think also we have to have it seen that we also have oversight over that as well as a council. So I understand the point. Of course, we also have oversight over that. It's not just strategically, but also over that as well. I think that's the point, really.
Yeah, thanks. I think what I'm trying to say really is that, you know, we've got the members, we've got the one team, we're all trying to work together, but what we're doing is the work of the council together. And I want to see us all supported and doing that. So for me, that's why the council isn't just the members, it's the members of the staff, everything. It's the council's work. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be difficult. So I think if we're all agreed on that, if you're happy to do that, I think that would be really helpful to keep those council references in there. Yeah? And after there's nothing much else for us. There's no recommendation for us to go for on there, is there? It's just to recommend that the council accepts that revised policy. So with those amendments, are we all happy to do that? Great. Yeah, great. Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so if we move on to item 8, which is the registered provider status. I think that's Hazel is coming to give us all the information on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is around the Council's position as a social housing provider and the requirement to register Broadland District Council with the regulator for social housing as a registered provider. The recommendation is that to register the council with the regulator. Just in summary, in terms of properties the council holds, the council owns the freehold of 2 properties and is acquiring some further properties. It also leases properties which it currently uses for temporary accommodation. Social housing under the Housing and Regeneration Act includes low-cost rental accommodation and affordable low-cost home ownership. The low-cost rental accommodation has a particular definition around how properties are made available to rent and who those properties are made available to. So under the definition and under the regulator, the social housing definition includes properties that the council owns a freehold of and properties that are leases. So the fact that it has to register with the regulator is because it is a provider of social housing. The advice from MP Law, which we've had, says that the council is a provider of social housing and therefore falls under the regulator. Interestingly, South Norfolk is also in the same position with legal advice from Burkitt's, and there were some test cases carried out sampling of households living in temporary accommodation to test out that definition of being a social housing provider. So that piece of work has been done. In terms of the regulator has a rent standard which sets out what rents are to be charged for properties. The properties that the council owns the freehold of are charged formula rents, which is similar to a social rent, but service charges can be added on top of that. So at the moment we charge the local housing allowance rates, but we're supposed to be charging formula rents, but with a top up of service charge, then those rents are kind of similar. So just to make that clear, so where the council owns properties for social housing, they are to be charged formula rent. As you'll probably be aware, the Social Housing Regulation Act has just come out, so it gives the regulator further powers. I've included an appendix which sets out those new requirements under the regulator. Obviously that incurs some costs for the local authority, which still needs to be costed, but some of those standards, like the consumer standards and the training required for housing staff, is still being consulted on. But in terms of the budget, that will be included in, or looked at in terms of the revenue budget and capital budget moving forward to accommodate those. That's a kind of quick summary. I realise it's quite complex. If anyone's got any questions, happy to take it. Thank you.
Any questions, anybody?
Thank you. No questions, just comment. Seeing as we are already doing this, isn't it just common sense that we go straight ahead to make sure we are legally compliant, and why has it taken us so long to do it, basically? Thank you.
I think in terms of length of time, so other Norfolk authorities, I think when we've been providing temporary accommodation, it's been a different sort of kettle of fish because we've been leasing properties. So other local authorities, since they've had the local authority housing fund, have gone down the route of registering with the regulator and becoming a registered provider. So other local authorities in Norfolk have done that this year. So I think that's more of a reason to do it, and the legal advice is clear.
Chairman, if I could just add to that, this has been something of a national debate and national position stimulated through the Local Authority Housing Fund, and therefore a review of the status of local authorities. So we're neither unique in Norfolk or nationally, but it is putting our house in order.
Yeah, I think I'm right in saying that it came up as a discussion, didn't it? Because there's been a substantial number of councils that actually haven't fallen into the, and nothing's happened, but there is a chance for something to happen. So clearly, we want to be on the right side of the law, I'm sure. So I don't think there's really any argument about that. I'm happy to move to the recommendations that we register as a registered provider, if we're all happy to agree that. Thank you very much. All in favour? Lovely. So if I move us on to the forward plan, which you will find on page 37, does anybody have any comments about that? I think we've managed most of the way we're getting through this, and I don't think there's anything major to change on there at the moment. So as long as everybody's happy to note those items, it's available on the website for residents to have a look at. So that's where we are. It basically represents key decisions as they're coming forward. So. If you're all happy to just move on, note those and move on, that would be very helpful. Yeah, thank you very much. In which case, then, I will need to move to the next item, which I'm afraid is going to be the exclusion of the press and public. I move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining items of business, because otherwise information which is exempt information by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006, would be